need to probe you in your ass. I think it's just what everyone's afraid of. They're afraid of things going in their ass. So that's what they think is going to happen if the aliens get them. They're going to freeze me and touch my ass. Woo.
Somebody told a dumb story back in the day, and it was the most sensational version. Everybody had to have it, so they were like, that's what they went with, you know?
Maybe, or maybe they do that to keep your mouth shut. They fuck you in the ass just so you keep your mouth shut.
Or some dude actually got abducted, right?
Yeah.
And he comes back, and he's like, they think they won against me. They think they beat me. They put stuff up my butt. They're weirdos.
Do you ever hear the story of Betty and Barney Hill?
No.
It's the very first UFO abduction story. It's an ancient story. And what's crazy is Angela Hill, who's a UFC fighter, I had her on the podcast. And after the show, she told me her grandpa was Barney Hill.
Whoa.
And I was like, holy fuck. Like, we didn't talk about it during the show, but she wanted to bring it up because she knows I'm kind of obsessed with UFOs. But the account that they have, like, they get hypnotized and he's recalling the abduction and they have like the same story. It's very terrifying. You hear him crying and screaming, and you know that he was taken aboard this craft and examined and brought back, and they have missing time. But here's the thing: if they only did that occasionally, if they only came down once every few years and just scooped some person up in the middle of some rural place, like if you're flying over, you know, I think their instance was I believe it was in Maine. If you're flying over somewhere like Maine, which is a very low population state, and you see a lone car, and it's just traveling along the highway, and there's places in Maine where you go from like Portland to Bangor. When you're traveling on that road, it's like 60 miles with nothing, not a gas station, nothing. If you were an alien and you saw a car by itself, you're like, no other car, let's move in, we got one.
Isn't it just easier to think it's the U.S. government?
No.
Why not?
Because we don't have the capability of doing something like that. I don't think the capability of the scientists working for the government is any different than the capability of the scientists that are working for, you know, Project X, or, you know, fill in the blanks in terms of like what Raytheon, publicly traded companies. How
long? Look, quadcopters don't seem all that complicated to me. Right?
Quadcopters.
Yeah, like
helicopters,
like drones. You know, we've seen the little drone toys you buy. They got 4 propellers. Take that concept, use thinner, you know, jets, and surround it in a disc so that it's, you know, universally, like, it can move in any direction because it's got, you know, because it's omnidirectional. What
power source? Where's the gas tank?
Well, lithium-ion battery, or.
Come on, man. You're talking space shit. Like, this hasn't even been invented yet. Think about how little mileage you can get out of a Tesla.
You know,
as advanced as Tesla is, you know, still, when it's going full out, it can only go for, I mean, you get 307 miles if you drive like a grandma, but if you drive like a maniac, you don't even get half that.
You know that they, I could be wrong with this, but I'm pretty sure that they had this flying platform in the 70s that uses gas power. And they've also had jetpacks for a long time.
No, they've had, sort of. They've had jetpacks that are capable of going for like 30 seconds. They don't. I've experienced.
No. I'm pretty sure the jetpacks back in the day went for a long time.
No, they definitely didn't.
We can look it up.
Yeah, let's look it up because they definitely didn't. The whole thing was the fact they were burning gas, and to propel you in the air, they only had a certain amount.
I thought it was like 20 minutes, 30 minutes.
Maybe now.
My understanding of why we abandoned jetpack technology was that it was inefficient and heavy, and you couldn't carry it without it being turned on. So they opted for larger, like, you know, like what are they called? Chinooks, helicopters that can carry multiple people at once. When you're wearing a jetpack, it has to be on idle, negating its own weight, which means it's burning as you're walking around, which means you get a good 20-minute jump and you got to abandon the tech. And then you don't want your enemies to get it.
Have you ever seen a guy fly a jetpack?
Yeah, there's a video on YouTube from a long time ago.
No, I mean in real life.
Oh, I've seen that one guy, the Iron Man dude.
Well,
not in real life.
I've been there in real life. My friend Willie B from in Denver on the radio.
Yeah.
He had a radio show in the morning. I used to do his radio show. I think he still has a radio show. Shout out to Willie. And he had this guy who was a jetpack pilot who came in the parking lot of the radio studio, and, you know, fans of the radio show came and did it too, and watched it rather. And this guy flew in the air for about 15, 20 seconds and then landed. This guy was so banged up. Both of his legs were blown apart. He had big braces on both of his knees. I'm like, what happened to your knees? He's like, just crash landing. Both my knees are blown to shit. He had no ACLs in either one of his knees. But
well, that's what I'm saying. Jetpacks.
This is back then. It was good for about 30 seconds. 30 seconds of flying.
Well, so the point I was trying to get to is if you take something like a quadcopter, you could absolutely fuel it with gas or
It'd be
whatever.
loud as fuck.
But it would depending on how you mitigate
It'd be
the
an
noise.
engine. It'd be an engine.
Yeah.
It'd be loud as fuck.
And you'd hear from the quad rotors.
Yeah, but what these people are describing is nothing like that. These people are describing things that are silent, that go from 0 to 1,000 miles an hour in a split second, things that defy physics
right.
as we understand them.
Yeah.
This is not something that I think that the U.S. government has. If you look at like Elon Musk company, Project X or SpaceX. SpaceX is right now one of the premier civilian companies, private companies that's making rocket ships. They fuck up all the time.
Totally.
They're in the middle of innovating all the time. He's one of the smartest people on earth. He's one of in terms of technology, he knows as much about propulsion as anyone, and they still can't get it right. They're still trying to figure it out. They're trying to come up with something that could be viable in terms of commercial space flight, and they're working on it daily. And these people are the brightest minds we know of right now that are in this jet propulsion space travel business. There's, Virgin's working on something. There's a couple other companies that are working on things as well. And then you have NASA, which worked. The best they could come up with was the space shuttle.
Right.
Do you think that there was something way better than space shuttle that they just never used, and that they had, and they kept it on the back burner, didn't want to let anybody know? But the way they would use it is they would pick people up and erase their memory and toy
Experiment
with their
on them?
asshole. That's crazy.
Well,
That's less likely than the hundreds of billions of galaxies, just in our own known universe, right? Each one with hundreds of billions of stars. Each star with who knows how many fucking planets. That's somewhere out there that's something more advanced than us. Maybe 1,000 years, maybe 1,000,000 years.
But
that's figured out how to come here.
I got the same question then. Why hasn't anyone discovered them? Why has SETI failed? Search for extraterrestrial intelligence.
Why
Pulled up
haven't the
nothing.
chimps invented guns?
They've started using more tools, but
Right. Why haven't they invented guns, though?
I don't know.
So why hasn't SETI found UFOs? It's the same fucking answer. They're not advanced enough yet. It's a real simple answer. The industrial age is pretty fucking recent.
Right.
I mean, you think about when people invented cars. You're talking about 1800. That's really recent.
And we've
Plane
only used
flights, 1800s.
High power radio transmission is only in the past 100 years or so.
Right. Well, you ever seen the movie Contact?
Maybe that's an old one, right?
It's Jodie Foster and Matthew McConaughey. It's based on Carl Sagan's book about contact with space and with aliens, how it's going to go down.
I think I did see it recently. I can't remember.
Interesting take on it. But
the
idea is that they've received the signal that we sent out way back, in the day. Actually, when the first broadcast signal was